Okay, I have 7 o'clock. Let's call this meeting to order. Everyone please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Pope. Colosimo.
Present.
Pat.
Here.
Wilczewski. Here. Raiders.
Hi. Here, sorry.
Munkhauser.
Here.
Spears.
Present.
Teeling.
Here.
Owens established.
Do we have any amendments to tonight's agenda? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to move EDC 2014-24 ordinance allowing the keeping of bees, of honeybees in 1 and 2 family residences to rock if we could.
Okay. Any other amendments? All in favor of moving that beekeeping up until right before mayor's report, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have no presentations, no public hearings. Do we have any citizen comments on items that are on the agenda this evening? Yes, sir.
Good evening, I'm Brian Farrell. I'm the
Please, can you step up there, Brian, please, and just sign the sheet and state your name again for the record?
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Pardo. I'm the factory director at the Yorkville factory over here on 47. And we're on the agenda for tonight for the Skittles expansion for the factory. Really excited about it. Really happy to be here. We worked really hard with the city to make this happen, and brought a box of some Skittles product to share with everybody, so you can see what we'll hopefully be making in about a year from now, a little over a year from now. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments on agenda items? Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Colosimo.
Aye.
Wilczewski.
Aye.
Spears.
Aye.
Raiders.
Aye.
Munkhauser.
Aye.
Teeling.
Aye.
Pat.
Aye.
There are no minutes for approval. Bills for the month were $624,961.69. And before we go into mayor's report, we will do the beekeeping under Economic Development Committee report. And since our Economic Development Committee chairman is not here, I will go ahead and read the motion. I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance allowing the keeping of honeybees in 1 and 2 family residence and business districts subject to certain regulations as permitted accessory uses, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
So
Second.
Comments, questions? Yes, sir.
Just want to clarify something here. This, if this is passed, the approval process lies with Christie, is that correct?
correct, my department.
What if an issue comes up after you've approved one of these? How does that handle?
It depends on the issue. If the issue is with the permitting process, we will handle that administratively. If it's something with the policy that we've come into, that we found that maybe the distance is an issue, then we will bring that back to city council for an opinion or a change.
I'm clear on this, we're giving a complimentary notice to neighbors.
Correct.
What role does that play in the approval process?
It does not have any bearing on the approval. We just ask that they sign an affidavit saying that they have notified their the residents in the immediate area, so just the abutting lots, and then we would issue the permit.
Yes, sir.
Let's follow up on that is what is the procedure for revocation if somebody's not doing what they're supposed to be doing? Not caring for the hives, not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Maybe we find out they didn't let the neighbors know, they not applied on their affidavit, things of that nature.
It's the same process with any building permit. If you find that they're in violation, we'll revoke the permit.
They would be given a hearing because licensing requirements by state law, they would be entitled to a hearing.
And who would do that hearing? Our hearing officer or the mayor?
Our code provides, as I recall, that our mayor reviews the licensing hearing for all kinds of business licensing.
Anyone else? I know Alderman Koch was very much opposed to the ordinance in its current form, and he could not be here tonight, so he asked me to read this statement. Honorable Mayor Galinsky and my fellow city council colleagues, as part of the discussion of the beekeeping ordinance, I would like to state for the record that I cannot support the current beekeeping ordinance that is in front of city council tonight. I did not support it previously, and I feel that it has not changed in a way that I could offer my support now. I'm not against beekeeping in a rural atmosphere. I have no issues with that. This ordinance will mix beekeeping into tight constraints by placing hives into higher density residential footprints than would naturally occur. In addition to this action, we are also stripping away the rights of neighboring residents to object to having their lives changed by the addition of hives next door. The residents' ability to object and protect their current lifestyle is very important as far as I am concerned. I've had numerous Ward 1 residents voice these concerns to me. Our residents pay their taxes and fees to support our city that we ask of them. Do we really want to apply an additional burden on them? I do not. Alderman Koch. Any other comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Spears?
Nay.
Nay. Colosimo?
Nay.
Funkauser?
Aye.
Wilczewski?
Aye.
Teeling?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Ritters?
Aye.
5-2. Behave. Okay, moving on to the regular agenda then, under mayor's report. I will entertain a motion to approve the mayor's appointment of Kate Elder to the library board to serve a term expiring on April 30th, 2016.
So moved.
Do we have a second from Ms. Kate
Second.
Elder? Comments or questions on this appointment? Roll call, please.
Colosimo?
Aye.
Funkauser?
Aye.
Wilczewski?
Aye.
Teeling?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Ritters?
Aye.
Spears?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I will entertain a motion to approve the mayor's appointment of Joseph T. Gillespie to the Police Pension Fund Board to serve a term expiring on April 30th, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
Comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Funkauser?
Aye.
Wilczewski?
Aye.
Teeling?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Ritters?
Aye.
Spears?
Aye.
Colosimo?
Oh, Joe's here in the audience. Welcome aboard, Joe.
Thank you.
Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve an ordinance establishing special service area number 2014-1 in the United City of Yorkville, Kendall County, Illinois, 1700 Cannonball Trail, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
So moved. Second.
Comments, questions?
I have a really quick comment
Yes,
about
sir.
the property at 1700 Cannonball. If you've driven down Cannonball and seen that lot before, during, and after construction, it is immaculate. I would like to request that potentially the people that are building that building consider doing the Cannonball Trail improvements because it is phenomenal the way they pick up after themselves. It is tidy. It's not if you want to move in now, and it's not even built. So the way that they're going about this is very much appreciated by the people who live in Ward 3.
Ready? Yes, sir.
I did get actually 2 calls about this. Anytime anybody sees SSA on the agenda, I think they get concerned, and I just wanted to clarify that this is not an SSA that's going into any residential area or will be on the back and the burden of the residents. This is a dormant SSA in the event that this developer who's building this building doesn't comply with our ordinances. We can rely on it. So this is not something that would add a burden to the taxpayers if activated. It would simply add a burden to this one lot, this one establishment involving this one owner. So I just wanted to clarify that it's not a broad-reaching SSA. I know many residents are against it.
Anything else? Roll call, please.
Teeling,
Aye.
Koch,
Aye.
Raiders,
Aye.
Spears,
Aye.
Lucian,
Aye.
Lefferts,
Aye.
Krzyzewski.
Aye.
Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve change order number 1, authorizing an increase in the amount of $58,866 and authorize the mayor to execute.
Second.
Comments, questions? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to clarify what the change was from the original contract that was on here. Obviously, we're still saving significantly, but what's the change that prompted the increase?
The biggest thing is that we didn't remove the manhole and put two new manholes on each side of 47. We left the manhole in place, and we were just going to line from the existing manhole to the existing manholes. Because of the soil conditions, the proximity to the storm sewer, and we found out that we did not have to put a casing pipe in.
So it's just from the original estimated proposal, I assume, to what the actual cost is going to be? Is that what?
Yes.
Okay.
The overall savings, yes.
Okay. So it's something that we just didn't know when we had the original contract.
This is another one of those that the plans were old enough where things and times have changed and techniques and technology has changed, and we're going to use the latest and greatest.
And we're still saving money, so.
Yes, good amount.
And the lining has a 50-year warranty. Is that correct? Or
Yes.
50-year useful life, or?
That's great.
I was just wondering, these usually come to Public Works, is there a I mean, I don't remember this change order coming to Public Works. Is there a reason?
It was time sensitive. They're in the field getting ready to do the
Yeah.
work or having reason.
Okay, just curious, because I was like, I never remembered seeing that. Okay.
Anything else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, my only concern was when I was reading the packet, the original bid's for $29,500, and then we're going to bump it up basically 3 times, and there's really no, at least in the packet, there's no explanation of what it is they're doing, at least in layman's terms.
Sure.
So coming from a layman, if you could just next time say what the description of the project is, because okay, the original bid's for A through B, now we're going to be doing A through F, that's totally cool, but in the bid it just says, oh yeah, it's 3 times the price. So going forward, just for the little people.
Absolutely.
Roll call, please.
Koch,
Aye.
Raiders,
Aye.
Spears,
Aye.
Lucian,
Aye.
Lefferts,
Aye.
Krzyzewski,
Aye.
Teeling.
Aye.
I will entertain a motion to approve an ordinance approving an economic incentive agreement by and between the United City of Yorkville, Kendall County, Illinois, and William Wrigley Jr. Company, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute. I'll move.
Second.
Comments or questions? Well, first off, I'd like to really thank Lynn. I mean, Lynn really did an outstanding job. I mean, having to go to every taxing body to get this done, I mean, it's a feat in of itself. But, yeah, I mean, it was a competitive job, competitive expansion. I mean, Mars, the way they do it, I mean, they make their factories compete against one another, and we were not only competing against other areas of the country, but internationally. So, and we did a good job getting them to stay here. We're really glad that you did stay here, and we're happy to be the Midwest home of Skittles. Yes, sir.
This is such a great opportunity to bring jobs we badly need to this area. And they're good paying jobs. So yeah, it's going to cost us a little bit up front here, but in the long run, it goes a long ways. I mean, that's the key, bringing the jobs.
Yep, we're ready to start talking about the next expansion. Okay, there's no other further questions, comments? Yes, sir.
There was, in the document, it references the reporting of the wages, and it references, I think it's references Exhibit B. Did I not see the exhibit that references the wages? Because that's the one thing, in the document that references wages, it doesn't have the specified range that have been talked about, but it does say that the reporting is in there. But it references a exhibit.
Yeah, there is the, I'm trying to find it here. It's in there, it's the Kendall County Property Tax Abatement Applicant Summary Statement. So I'm not sure if it's labeled correctly in the packet as Exhibit B.
Okay, so page 114.
Yeah,
113.
113, 114, and that's basically what our.
That has a range, so that would be considered exhibit B. Okay, that's.
Anything else?
I just wanted to point out, it hasn't slipped my observations that he's holding on to the Skittles until after the vote. Until after we vote. No, this is Illinois, I'm going to be joining Blacard.
Wait a minute.
You are sharp, Carolyn. Okay, roll call, please.
Todd?
Aye.
Raiders?
Aye.
Spears?
Aye.
Delosino?
Aye.
Lefferts?
Aye.
Wilczewski?
Aye.
Teeling?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next is a motion to accept proposal and award contract for, no, that's not next. Next is a motion to approve a resolution approving salt purchase and salt brine making and application equipment and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
Second.
You want to give a quick little rundown, Eric, of what we're doing here?
Sure. As the memo stated, each year we do a bid for salt, and we do it in March, so we have plenty of time to state together all the bids for all the counties, municipalities, townships. And this year, they called me, I would believe it was the third week in July, and told me that they had no bidders for us. And along with us, a third of the state had no bidders. So the third of the state is out scrambling for salt right now. And the reason being, last year's winter, it was so hard on everybody that everybody used the reserve salt supplies. So now they're working at the plants making it, but they just can't make it quick enough, and they still have contracts to fulfill this year. I mean, they still have 75 million tons, I believe Cargill does, that's deliverable this year. So all that kind of added up onto nobody wanting to part with their salt until we went to the private market. They didn't want to bid, I don't think, on the giant state contract where it's millions of tons. So we went out and found a bidder. Unfortunately, it is at almost double the price of last year, which is about, I guess, as good as you're going to find. And on the Midwest salt bid, they did have one that was a little cheaper, but it's coming from the Mediterranean Sea. I've never heard of it before. I didn't really trust it getting here on time, so I went with the bid that was for sure on the ground. And the brine making equipment is become a very viable option because we're going to use so much less salt with the brine making equipment. And in the end, when the salt prices do come down, we will still have the brine making equipment to be able to use even less salt. And they have a 15-year lifespan, so we're going to get many pieces of equipment.
A couple questions. You started like playing around with the brine a couple years ago, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I know that you had like the tank there and you were making it.
Yep.
But were you using it in the actual, like, did you like
Yes.
fly a truck to use it? Or how
We have one truck that had a tailgate mount system,
Okay.
which was a 100-gallon tank.
Okay, so it wasn't much as far as.
No, we used it for the hills only.
And then, so if you were to get this, the bid includes the two, basically the buckets, but they're flat, so you can still put salt on top of it in the back of the truck?
Absolutely.
So you could, in essence, have both of them in the back of every
Which
truck?
we will,
Okay.
every time.
All right, so you don't basically have a truck that's, now it's a brine truck?
Nope.
So they're dual use?
They're dual use.
Is this more or less pothole friendly than just straight salt?
Indifferent.
Indifferent?
Indifferent.
What about
The
this
the potholes mainly come from water getting down in the pavement and freezing and thawing.
Right, okay. So there's gonna be water regardless.
Yep.
Is sand cheaper, or is that just not an option?
Sand would go against everything we do in our NPDES permit for storm sewer clean water quality.
Okay, that's what I figured. And then, just reading about people that complain about brine, you have increases the speed of rust formation on cars, ruins brake lines, air hoses, and semi-trucks. I haven't heard many things that people were saying negatively about salt that didn't match those same complaints, but is
Correct.
it pretty much the same set of complaints, just a different person?
Just a little bit different application. It's the same thing. We take the salt we get, we put it in the brine making machine, and it makes it to 23% solution.
Right, so you use 100% through a salt spreader or 23%
Right.
through a brine.
Correct.
So theoretically, this is less corrosive because you're using less salt.
But I'm using it in conjunction with salt.
Right.
But I'm using less of it, yes. Theoretically.
And you would have, and how soon before a storm, like some cities are saying 48 hours, but how quickly do you go out and do it?
Depends on the weather. You can do it as, if it's hovering at that freezing line and you know you can get the freezing rain, you can go a day.
Can you do it
before.
retroactively, or would you, that's why you have salt on hand?
We would go pre-wet. We would go pre-wet, so that way we may not, let's say the storm just gets a tail of us, we may not have to go out at all then on those times, which is another big plus.
So you'll save on stock and also hours.
It's what we're banking on.
Yeah, when I read this memo, Eric, I really appreciate everything you did putting it together and getting the information to us. I mean, this is exactly the kind of stuff we depend on staff for, and, we're not experts in this field. I don't know much about salt. I know it's expensive, but that's about it. I do like option C, even though it's, short-term cost, long-term gain. Those are the things that I think government should do more of. Even though it costs us a couple extra dollars this year, hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years, not only do we recruit that, obviously we will, but we're going to save a lot of money on salt. I also like the idea because if we don't need as much salt, we have more salt storage available. And then when the prices drop, we can then proactively purchase more salt, store more salt, and then when we need it, we're not scrambling for salt. So I think
At $100 a ton.
well, we're not purchasing it at $100 a ton, right? So I think it just puts us into a good cycle where we'll have more storage, we can get it at a better price, and long-term we save money. So I do like option C, and that's what I would support.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that was kind of answered my question with that, because I was wondering how this would affect our group that we have with the county and different municipalities. How does that, I mean, we're still doing that. This is just in the interim.
Yes, we still have that, and we'll still bid again next year. It'll be touchy next year, I think, even because I think salt prices are going to stay high for a while. I think we may have to go independently or just with the small group in the county like we did before in years past. But we still have our 1,000 tons of storage out there. We just don't have any salt in there right now. We used it all last winter. We have probably between 100 and 200 tons is all we have.
So do we still pay every year for that storage?
I think this is year 4 out of 5.
Okay.
And then we'll be paid off after the 5th year, and then we pay a $250 a year maintenance fee is all.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
You mentioned with conditions and that, last year we had that big freeze where it turned to rain, like all the hills. Is this a better application? Is
We
that
would
what
have
you're saying?
been able to go out during the day and spread that, and probably respread again if we had to, and not use as much salt, and probably would have been ahead of the game.
Okay, roll call, please.
Rios,
Aye.
Spears,
Aye.
Lozino,
Aye.
Lefferts,
Aye.
Wilczewski,
Aye.
Teeling,
Aye.
Gott.
Aye.
Okay, next on our mayor's report is Plano Waste Transfer Station siting application. You have not heard, Plano is looking to site a waste transfer station. Staff had put together several pages of comments here. I know you just got it, so you didn't get a chance to read it, but I guess the question out there in front of us right now is, do we want to be a part of the siting process? We have to apply by this Friday, the 15th, if we want to see the table, and we want our voices heard on anything regarding this transfer station, as far as traffic impact, environmental concerns, anything. We have to apply by this Friday. Yes, sir.
Well, I think we have an obligation to our residents to be involved in the process. When you look at the coverage area in the 300 pump in the 300-page packet that is proposed for this transfer station, the vast majority, 80-90% of it is east of here. The vast majority of garbage coming to the transfer station is not only going to go through Kendall County, but it's going to go straight through the heart of Yorkville. I think that the traffic patterns, the additional traffic is going to be a concern, and I think we have an obligation to have a voice at this table and not just ignore the process. I would be in favor of it.
Yes, sir.
I would basically carbon copy those exact sentiments. The things that I'm worried about is my backyard kind of butts up to the rest of all that farmland down Jackson. So this is going to be something that, number one, I'm going to have to drive through. And I don't want to make it seem like I don't understand that I should be responsible for my waste. I make a personal attempt to minimize as much as I can as far as composting, recycling, and sorting my waste, but I don't think I'm ready to have it in my backyard for a transfer station. And looking at the numbers of, so 100 garbage trucks going in and then 20 full loaders coming out per day, in the grand scheme of things, might not seem like a large number when you're talking about 15, 20,000 vehicles. But still, we're going to redo 34, we're going to redo 47, and the majority of the traffic that I think I'm going to be noticing the most are going to be those vehicles that are coming in just full of trash from out of Yorkville. So as a person who's aware of the trash issue, but still not ready to embrace a transfer station a block from my house, I think we owe it to ourselves to get involved because of the previous experience with the landfill. This is a hot button issue and it's important. So I think we kind of owe it to Yorkville to stand up and get involved in this process.
Yeah, I concur. This is adjacent to Ward 3. On El Domain, most traffic is going to come from Galena or 34. 34 is going to be under construction after they build this facility, pushing everything up onto Galena. 47 will end up being under construction at some point. It's not going to be pleasant for their traffic up through those areas, but as Joel said, as Carl said, we have to look out for Yorkville. This is on our west side. They are our neighbors. Yes, the zoning is appropriate. It's a good use for what's planned there. But the actual use itself is problematic for me as to having the transfer station coming through Yorkville. We need to at least look at it and be part of those discussions.
Clear enough direction for you?
Yeah, I was prepared to go through the memo, but seems like I've got the votes here, so no problem.
You need any other input? I guess if any aldermen have specific input like we discussed here, get it to Bart, get it to staff.
Yeah, I think we kind of figured that the main issue is going to be the traffic through town. All the other issues, they comply with their zoning code, and a lot of them are zoning and community development type issues. A couple concerns about sanitary sewer connections and stuff, but we'll prepare our comments accordingly and attend the meetings and make sure that somebody provides some testimony.
There's a lot of good staff comments, so you don't have to go through it now, but read the comments, and I would imagine they'll get on the webpage in a minute.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, moving on. No Public Works Committee report. Under Economic Development, we already took care of the Bs. Let's go to Comprehensive Plan RFP. I want to take a motion to accept proposal on the board contract for the Comprehensive Plan update to the Lakota Group in the amount not to exceed $111,336.
Second.
Comments, questions? Yes, sir.
The first document that I took away from City Hall after I was sworn in was the comprehensive plan. And it was the second most boring document I've ever touched in my entire life. The first, I went to Catholic school, I don't want to get into that. I think it was Beowulf. My concerns with the whole comprehensive plan was that I'm going to be looking at a document that nobody's going to read. It's not going to make any sense. There better be some pictures. And going through their pitch document pretty much solidified the fact that there's going to be a lot of pictures. And it's a way of reimagining Yorkville from a way that kind of takes everything that we already have, but it looks like what we've already talked about, what's going to be in our future, but it actually does something with it. So I was the first one to go, who cares, it's boring. It actually looks pretty exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing the finished product.
The process itself is exciting, honestly. I mean, get involved. I'm sure they're going to be doing a lot of public meetings, and getting involved in the process is good. Yes.
Yeah, I was impressed with their presentation in EDC. The Lakota Group and their representatives came in, gave us a brief presentation. I was excited about the idea that they're going to be taking their ideas to the residents. Anytime you say, we're having a meeting at 6 o'clock at the library, please bring us your ideas. 2 or 3 aldermen show up, we sit around, can't talk to each other because we've all had no meetings at, and then we leave. And nobody shows up. So I'm excited that they have a forward-thinking idea, a forward-thinking plan that they're going to go out to the festivals, they're going to go out to the events that we have through our community and ask the people there versus the people coming to them. So I really was impressed with that. I like that they're open to working with the retail coach who's doing the Southside study and working together with them for collaboration. So I was very impressed with their presentation and look forward to working with the Lakota group.
Anything else? Roll call, please.
Colesima.
Aye.
Bunkhauser.
Aye.
Wilczewski.
Aye.
Sealing.
Aye.
Huck.
Aye.
Rears.
Aye.
Spears.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to Administration Committee report. Rose, would you like me to read the motion?
Yes, please.
I'll entertain a motion to approve an ordinance amending the compensation of elected officials and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
So move.
Second.
Comments or questions?
I really don't agree with this. This was changed, and it was, I'm not quite sure how long ago they changed it, but the council members that were on the compensation ordinance, I believe I personally feel I deserve it. I was, the reason why I lost my job was because of former Mayor Valerie Bird just played dirty pool. She involved the county, and it was due to, keep this in mind, I lost my job because they called the forest preserve in King County, and that's where I was employed. So after that, I collected no compensation, nothing. And I was okay with that as long as I was getting something to cover various medical bills. And I just, we discussed this previously, and they allowed the aldermen to be grandfathered in, the ones that were already in there, and then they cut the plan for any new aldermen that were coming in. So I don't think it's quite fair that the reason why I'm not employed was because of Valerie Bird.
Okay, what Rose is referring to is when, shortly after the last election, probably a year after we grandfathered in everyone who had it, and all new elected officials would not get it. And at the time, that was a way to phase it out eventually. So now we're looking at eliminating it altogether, starting with the next election. Any other further comments?
I think this is a fine, way to handle it if they're going to pay 100%. I think that it's, it's not costing the city anything. I think it's a good alternative to what it was previously. And if it had been brought up like this when we were going to phase it out, I probably would have been in favor of going this way.
Yes, sir.
I agree with that. Just want to be clear, though, that we can't vote to change our own benefits. So this will only take effect if it's voted in after somebody's term is expired, correct, legally?
Correct. Next election.
So the 4 of us that were elected the last time around still fall under the old provision.
Correct.
Okay? And then obviously we have an election in the spring. After that occurs, that's when this starts to kick in for those officials.
Right.
I'm good with this. I supported it the last time. I don't think the residents should be paying for our health care, but it gives an elected official an opportunity to get health care through the city without putting the burden on our citizens. So I plan to support it.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Wackelzer,
Aye.
Milczewski,
Aye.
Teeling,
Aye.
Cox,
Aye.
Reuters,
Aye.
Spears,
Nay.
Pelosi, no.
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to Park Board, I'll entertain a motion to approve the intergovernmental cooperative agreement of the Yorkville Community School District 115 and the United City of Yorkville, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
So moved.
Second.
Tim, you want to give us a brief synopsis?
Sure. Just basically, as it states in the memo, is that we've been kind of working on a handshake agreement with the city, with the school district since 2010, 2011, where the previous agreement is kind of what we've been going by as the baseline for how we do school, rent schools or use schools, and vice versa, how they work with us with police officers and things of that nature. And then recently, back in kind of April, we were notified that they had changed kind of the way they're going to do how you're going to submit your rental agreements and things like that, school usage throughout the year. And so at that time, we were just kind of concerned is that we reached out to them, had meetings with them saying, you know what, we'd really like to renew the agreement with you. They kind of wanted to hold off for a year to see how somewhat this new policy goes in and works for a year. And I think on our end, as we went to the park board, there was a fear is that, okay, now if we wait a year, you're going to set a precedent here that could ultimately hurt us in a sense as we continue to grow as a city and we're looking to expand our basketball programs and other offerings and things of that nature. So it was just basically this is a time maybe that we should get input from our park board, from the city council on how to move forward with this agreement.
Yes, sir.
I guess my biggest concern is the disparity right now in the monies. The agreement says that we're not going to have more than a 20% gap between what they're putting in and what we're putting in. And right now we're putting in 52% more with our officers' salaries compared to the rent that we're paying. And that's with us calculating based on the rent at their highest level. If we take a mid-range rent, the disparity is even greater than 52%. So, I mean, what are we going to do about that? I don't want to agree to this, and I know that's been an issue in the past. We're putting in significant salaries with the officers, and sometimes we have issues with the rentals and getting the space because we don't have priority, but we sure have priority in offering a couple $100,000 in police services to the schools. So how do we close that gap?
We use the schools more, I guess. I mean, I guess that's a discussion really for here is what we're kind of, I mean, as we grow, we will continue to use more and more of the schools, obviously, in the gyms. But unless they increase their fees, I really don't know unless we start using it more and more how we're going to exactly close that gap. Unless we...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I understand that they're going through a evaluation of what their true costs are at rent facilities. So I'm sure you're probably going to see some fee changes on their end. I don't know if it's going to make up 52%, but...
We'd be looking to immediately reconcile that when they finish their report. And even though the agreement that we've currently got drafted is 3 years and the school district still hasn't even contemplated it yet, you know, if it came to a number that was still greater than 20% after they completed their fee changes, we'd be back in front of you saying this doesn't meet the spirit of the agreement. We need to either be working on a cash transfer or a change in services.
Can we tighten it down from 3 years to maybe 1 or 2 until they actually come out with their numbers?
Yep.
And then maybe we can review it when we're talking apples to apples.
Right.
I think initially, I mean, that's what we presented was just saying, let's do a 1 year, let's extend this agreement for 1 year. And I mean, there was hesitation from school staff saying, well, we'd like to really see how this all plays out for a year before we go move forward with any of agreement. I think that was our fear, and the park board's fear was, we're going to wait a year, and this is a precedent's going to be set in here that could somewhat harm the Parks and Recreation Department as they're asking to use schools in the future.
The term isn't the issue necessarily, whether it's 1 or 3 years, at least on our end. The term is making sure that we have right of first refusal for the different facilities. And so, you know.
But my point is, if we agree for 3 years, and then it turns out in our negotiations with them, we pass this today, they accept it, and then we don't get the use for the park that the park is looking for, we're stuck providing our services from our end for 3 years, but we're not getting what we need in return. So wouldn't it be smarter to do, I mean, I'm not looking out for the park, not trying to throw the park under the bus. Because I want to make sure that they do get the space and the facilities they need when needed. And if they don't, what's our recourse if we've already entered into the 3-year agreement?
Well, I think the agreement has some, admittedly, I think vague because it's an intergovernmental agreement. It's not a contract and necessarily, breach provisions. And, once the cost analysis goes outside of 20%, we'd be able to basically say, the agreement isn't being adhered to from your end. So we either need cash or more facilities at that point. And, in my mind, the longer the initial term is, at least the better it is for the city, just because then we've got the right of first refusal locked in for a longer term.
Yes, sir.
I think if we do the 3-year term, it should be reviewed every year. I think that's an appropriate way to do it. Yes, we lock in the agreement, but then we are obligated to review it annually. That resolves that, and then at that point, we have the ability to amend the agreement at that time. Also, I don't like the fact that we are a second-tier group to the district now. We're not a priority group to them anymore. We're second-tier, correct, Tim?
We'll be 4th tier.
Or we're 4th tier. We're taxing body versus historic user.
Well, no, the historical user is only for 1 year. So that would be for this school year.
And then we go to full.
And then we would go into that priority.
That could be significantly problematic for us if they have others that they want to put in there. And I know you mentioned in the memo about changing programming to achieve that target of what they would consider priority. I don't think we should have to change our programming to meet that priority use. We are trying to provide services to the community on a collective agreement here. This is not honoring that collective agreement that we've had over the time and by a handshake for the past year. I think the school board needs to work with us a little better on trying to get us up there as a priority user so that we can use the facilities as we need them and make the best use for both sides of the party here. And the other thing, I'd like to see in the agreement remedy for breach. I mean, right now, like you said, Bart, it's vague, but I would like to see in there somewhere that has remedy provisions. What are we going to do if we do exceed that 20%? How are we going to make it right? What are the terms that we have available to us? Put it in writing so that we have some type of options. That's what I have.
I think it's important that we're equal partners in this agreement, and I don't think this agreement reflects that. And I do like the idea of reviewing it every year. 3 years is just too long. Like maybe you have an out clause or something to that effect.
We review the schedule twice a year.
I have a problem with this, and I don't think I'm going to support it.
Are we good with the terms otherwise? I think that's the best intent, is to be able to say that, we're still okay with the school police officers scheduling operational cost additions to the old agreement that we've added in as a result of it. And then if we need breach provisions, annual review, we can add those in, bring them back at a later date, obviously, for later approval. But I think the intent is to get everybody on the same page on this side of the agreement, to be able to say to the school district, we'd like to renew with these same terms or with some minor additions, obviously.
What would you recommend for the priority issue?
Right of first refusal, absolutely. That's the main issue, and it gets into a conversation where it's a second or fourth tier priority. We could get into a situation where basketball registration all of a sudden exceeds what we had expected 1 year. We can be shut out of a facility, and then at that point we're either renting from a privately held entity or another public entity, or looking to build our own. And at that point, I think that's when the overall taxpayer cost structure becomes a little disadvantageous, because then you're building a facility because we couldn't come to an agreement.
Well, we're turning residents away who want to participate.
Yes. Yep.
And that will cap our programs.
So we can bring it back with some changes on remedy and breach provisions. I'm assuming that Kathy's going to have some additional legal changes to the structure of the agreement. An annual review every year with potential opt-out. Sounds good.
I mean, is everyone generally in favor of this type of agreement? I mean, do you want to trade police services for gym space? I know in Oswego, I talked to their PD today, and they charge their school district for everything. They charge for the resource officers, they charge for officers at football games, they charge for dances, basketball games, and to the tune of they invoice them about $160,000 per year. You know?
I'll be very frank. If it's an equal trade, yes. If it's not equal, absolutely not. The school board has to actually work with us, or they will have to pay for the services we're providing to them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. If it's a 52% disparity, we would both go our separate ways. When we rent, we pay them, and they pay us for our police officers. And at the end of the day, we win by 52%, unless the formula changes.
But then you drop to fourth tier status.
At least we know who's getting paid.
Have we been having difficulties getting in? Or for the most part, when we request space, we get it?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I mean, for the most part, it's been a very good relationship, and since the new superintendent's come in, he's actually had his secretary work with our staff to iron out any differences or any conflicts and anything of that nature. So in the meeting that Bart and I had with them, I mean, they pretty much guaranteed us that whatever we had this past school year, we will be able to have this school year. I think the fear was, without an agreement, was as we move forward, is that they're going ahead with a new way of people using the facilities, using the gyms, that a precedent's now set that could come back to say, okay, hey, this worked out great, and this is what we're going to do. We really don't have a leg to stand on in the sense of not being an equal entity with the school district.
So what's your recommendation, Mark?
I think you've given me direction here to change the remedy and breach provisions, to strengthen the analysis of the cost sharing, review of it every year with an opt-out, and then obviously we'd prefer it to be as long-term as possible, as long as we're annually reviewing it with an opt-out each year. So I guess my recommendation would be to table it back to either committee or city council in a future month, and then in the meantime, we can notify the school district of the provisions we'd like to see in it, and see if they'll take it up on their end.
Does that mean we still allow the other police officer, though?
Yes, that'd be my recommendation, to leave the middle school officer and the high school. They've indicated to us that they would prefer that, so since they've requested it, leave it in until we get to the final agreement, and they can always choose to take it out if they wish.
And I don't believe it's a superintendent's or school board's intent to force us out or anything. I mean, they're looking at a different way of doing things, trying to schedule things in a more efficient manner. You know, I mean, they're looking at a different way of doing things. And we're just not sure how it's going to work out, especially if they drop us to fourth tier. And I think that's the biggest concern with the park board. All right, so table it for 2 weeks, bring it back to city council in 2 weeks. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to table it for 2 weeks.
Second.
Roll call.
So moved, I'm sorry.
I moved. She seconded.
Teeman. Scott.
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Spears.
Aye.
Colosimo.
Aye.
Lefkows.
Aye.
Machuski.
Aye.
All right, no plan commission report, no ZBA, no city council report, city clerk's report, any community and liaison reports. Any staff reports?
Just one report, Your Honor. We do have the Parks and Recreation Services survey that's online right now. The link to the survey is available on the city website, but also within your Parks and Recreation catalog, which should have been delivered this past weekend. Then each catalog has its own unique survey password, so it's on there and required as a result to get in. But getting a lot of good feedback so far, and it's a great way for residents to provide us with feedback on a specific service rather than emailing us about agenda items or coming to a meeting.
I did have something to report. Mark your calendar, September 21st, senior fashion show. I will be walking down the runway again. No, 21st.
Yeah.
So I committed to the seniors.
So much for that.
I'll come home early. But the city does have a table, so I'd like to see everyone there.
Can we donate to the adult walk down the Capitol?
I was good last year. Marshall's, I didn't trust myself. Marshall's trust me. Any additional business? Executive session, we do have 2 items. We're going into executive session for
Threatening litigation.
just litigation. Okay.
And threatening litigation.
So we will adjourn to executive session, and then we'll come out for citizen comments about any items, and then adjournment. There will be no action taken after executive session. But